Hello and welcome back once again, and already we're back for another episode of Thrash Reviews, where I, yours truly, Thrash Maniac 99, continues to review upcoming hard rock heavy metal albums in the calendar year of 2016 and years to come. And now I am back here today to review the newest release from Dutch progressive metalcore masters, Textures. So, Textures is a band from the Netherlands that is known for combining the three-way mixture of metalcore, prog metal, and even at times a bit of groove metal, kind of influenced by bands like Lamb of God and even some Gojira, even though I don't consider Gojira groove metal, even though they get put in there a lot. That's just me. So they kind of mix in those kind of elements, and even like from metalcore bands such as like... what would be a good example? Perhaps bands like Bury Tomorrow could be a good example. And they mix it with prog metal, with kind of taking a bit of influence of bands like, Dream Theater and other great prog metal bands. So Textures is all about trying to create something unique with the metalcore style, with the progressive elements as well as a bit of a groove aspect with the catchiness behind the music. And even at times Textures get put in the gent movement a lot, which to me gent isn't even really a subgenre. To me it's just an internet thing. That's it. To me Textures is progressive metal / metalcore / groove metal. But anyways, we are here to review their newest record, PHENOTYPE, which is the first of a dueling concept double album, which the second one's coming out next year, Genotype. So I can't wait to take a look at that next year. But let's get into the review for PHENOTYPE. So we kick off the album with the track Oceans Collide, and to me, whenever I see that song title, it made me think of a few different songs, like Vacant Planets by Death, Celestial Voyage by Cynic, and even songs like The Synthetic Sea by Job for a Cowboy. I was thinking we were going to get something like that. It kind of get bits and pieces of some of those tracks, but with their own unique twist. And this track was a great way to kickstart an album that Textures themselves are really one to make a unique record, and also for the next record, so that way they can solidify themselves as being a top metalcore band that isn't your typical metalcore band, because they are more proggy than they are metalcore, but they're all about pushing the musical boundaries, pushing the limits of the music, and this track certainly exemplifies what Textures is all about. Then as we go along, we get to another track, Illuminate the Trail, which is the longest track of the album at 7 minutes 15 seconds. And this was a masterpiece of a song, absolutely well put together, very intricate, but yet also catchy. And there have been bands in the past that were considered prog, or extreme prog, or prog death metal that have that complexity in the music as well as a catchiness, and I think the best band that did that was the band Death. Because not only were they one of the most complex metal bands of all time, but they had a lot of catchiness behind the music. And that's what, to me, makes a great prog band, is if you have that complexity, diversity, but have a bit of a catchiness to it. And parts of like songs that stick in your head. And bands like Death, Opeth, Dream Theater, even Gojira, those bands within the prog metal or progressive music realm have that, and Textures are trying to do it in their own fashion by trying to help make metalcore not be a one-sided subgenre where it's all about, straightforwardness, if I can create a word. Textures is all about making metalcore into something new and different within itself, and that's a thing I do respect about Textures. And this track absolutely is 100% doing that and even throughout the whole album as well. Then we get along to the next track that I want to talk about, The Fourth Prime, a little over 7 minutes, and this is probably my favorite track of the album, because it had some chaos behind it. There was a good amount of the blast beats, some heavy riffing, and also the cool breakdowns. Like, breakdowns to me can be good if you're doing it right, as long as it doesn't sound so generic, like dun 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 dun, like bands like Amur and Attila and those bands that I really do not like. It's what they do, and that's not how I think breakdown should be. I think it should have a catchiness behind it, but also have a bit of musical value. And there are some metalcore bands out there that do it well, like Killswitch Engage, Hatebreed, Bury Tomorrow, whose last album I reviewed earlier in the day, definitely have that. Textures do it in their own way that is very proggy, a progressive breakdown that sounds something like what Meshuggah done in the past. And Meshuggah is another one of those bands you could say is a big influence on Textures musically, and I could definitely see that. And this track certainly proves that Textures definitely is all about that, all about diversifying within their own craft in order to really captivate the listener into sticking through this album from start to finish. And then the final track I want to talk about, the bookend track, Timeless. To me, this track was the weakest track of the album, but it was by no means a bad track. It was actually a good song. It just didn't capture the real epic ending I was expecting for this album. So it's because of that, it kind of has me a bit worried about how Genotype, their next record, coming out next year to conclude this double concept album style for next year. So it will be interesting to see what's going to happen with when their next record comes out next year and see where it picks up from this weaker track. But we gotta wait a year, maybe longer. But overall with this album, very, very good stuff. 87 out of 100. This was a great album. Definitely one I recommend for anybody out there who likes metalcore, but want to hear a little bit something different within it, with some progressive tendencies and groove aspects, catchiness. This is definitely an album for you, and this may be one I may pick up if I ever go to an FYE or something like that. But again, 87 out of 100. Again, aside from the only one disappointment this year, the Prong album, but that was still a decent record. No bad albums this year so far. But once again, still a long way to go. But anyways, peace.